It is time to get out of pocket. I'm your host, Michael Davis, and we are live on Boom Broadcasting. Your eyes do not deceive you. It is 5 p.m. Eastern time, so we are 30 minutes earlier. We advertised this yesterday. We've reminded you on social media, and we are here live at 5 o'clock. We'll get you in and out before 6 p.m. Eastern time. If you're joining us, thank you guys so much. You might be just getting in the car on your way home from work. You might have gotten off at 4 and been a lot luckier than the rest of us, but I literally just got off, and I could not wait a minute sooner than to give you my top quarter rankings. Later on, we'll be joined by Wayne Thomas from Sideline Savants and the host of Quick Hits Podcast _Smitty, who dropped his episode earlier today at noon, covering a lot of the college football stuff, the Heisman race, some rivalry week. Tensions were high, and I know everybody wants to know who is in the top quarter rankings this week, which I'll be honest, before I give out this list, guys, the first 3 to 4 weeks of the NFL season is so hard to put a top quarter rankings list together because you don't know who they're playing. Even if a team was good last year, doesn't mean they're good this year. There's a lot of changes in the offseason. Some players are in that September football mode, as the Dallas Cowboys love to dub that. There's a lot of factors that come into the first few weeks. And then as we keep going on along the season, we're like, okay, we're seeing this is a contender. This is a pretender. Hey, this team is getting healthy. Oh, this team is, struggling. We've seen a tougher schedule, a weaker schedule. There's more factors in now that we can see a full body of work as we give the week 13 top quarter rankings. So I'm going to go ahead and say, if you watched last week's episode, it is very similar, but I have left off a team for the first time since, I think since week 2. Honestly, they may have still been in the top quarter rankings in week 2, but they have fallen off the list for the favor of this team making their debut, the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, I was between a couple teams. I'll be honest, I was between a couple teams. I was between the LA Chargers and their division rival, the Denver Broncos. That's who I was between. But then I started looking at what these teams have done. Obviously, in their head-to-head matchup, the Chargers did beat the Broncos, so that gives them a leg up. But the Chargers are 8-4. They're second in the AFC West, only behind the Kansas City Chiefs. They have won 5 of their last 6. Okay? And they have won 6 of their last 8. Now, let me bring you some of those games. Yes, they lost to the Arizona Cardinals. So when they lost to them, the Cardinals were on a really hot streak. And they lost to the Baltimore Ravens, who have been in my top quarter rankings for quite some time. And you may look and you're like, well, the Chargers only beat the Tennessee Titans. The Chargers only beat the Cleveland Browns. The Chargers only beat the New Orleans Saints when the Saints started to fall off. They only beat the Denver Broncos, who are neck and neck with them in the division right now. They beat the Atlanta Falcons, who the Atlanta Falcons could very well be the NFC South winners. They are tied with the Buccaneers and have the advantage over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with winning both of their head-to-head matchups. So you're looking at a Chargers team that lost Keenan Allen, lost Mike Williams, lost Austin Eckler. They basically retooled their entire offense with a rookie wide receiver from Georgia. Tell me the last receiver other than Julio Jones and AJ Green that succeeded coming from Georgia. You don't usually see those. And they gave us not one, but 2 running backs from Baltimore in previous years who couldn't stay healthy. And of course, they're dealing with another J.K. Dobbins injury. But with the Chargers to go on the road against the NFC South leading Atlanta Falcons, and Jim Harbaugh comes in, Justin Herbert, he does not that great. The team offensively didn't do that great, but it relied on their defense. Derwin James, Troy Dye, Tony Jefferson, Poona Ford, making some big plays. Tart had a sack in this game. The Chargers at 8-4, 4-2 on the road, 4-2 at home. That's consistency, and it's all to be attributed to Jim Harbaugh. Now, this is why we do these live streams. Alan saying, Michael, what's up? And I hope that $sign, I know it might have been a typo, but I hope he's wanting to bring some money my way. We'll figure out something how you can pay me. I'm kidding. Alan, I appreciate you hopping on Facebook, watching Out of Pocket live on Boom Broadcasting. Appreciate you, my friend. It's been awesome to see you the last few weeks, either at my workplace or we were at Light Up Downtown and I saw you. Always fun to chat with you. But the Chargers making their top quarter rankings debut at number 8. Coming in at number 7, moving up one spot, are the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings this week won their game. Minnesota Vikings beating the Arizona Cardinals. And again, the Arizona Cardinals surprisingly were doing better this year. And the Vikings, they were the last unbeaten team aside from the Kansas City Chiefs. And it felt like they had fallen off a little bit when they lost back-to-back games to the Lions and to the Rams. But they've had some cupcake games. They had the Colts, they had the Jags, they had the Titans, and this was enough to build that confidence back up to when they were 5-0. They beat the Chicago Bears. Matt Eberflus is gone, so the Bears don't have to worry about that anymore. But to beat the Arizona Cardinals, and now you're looking at the rest of the Minnesota schedule. They got the Falcons. They got the Bears again. They got Seattle on the road. They got the Packers, and they have the rematch with the Lions. But this team is 10-2. The old saying goes, your record is what your record says it is. You are what your record says you are, and Minnesota at 10-2 deserves to be in the top quarter rankings at number 7, but I don't put them above their rival, the Green Bay Packers, at number 6. I don't put the Vikings over the Packers because I like how the Packers are structured right now. Jordan Love, as much money as he's getting paid, he doesn't have to do it all. This team is relying on Josh Jacobs, who teams want to dismiss. Teams didn't want to go after in free agency, namely the Dallas Cowboys. And they have just shown that Josh Jacobs still has juice. He's still a big part of this offense, and they're distributing the ball. I mean, there's no clear-cut number 1 wide receiver like a lot of teams have. And so what they have is Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks even. Like, this team is so evenly spaced throughout the entire offense. It helps. And then when you look at their defense, they're able to, keep opponents, 20 points per game? Only 26 touchdowns this year. This defense is helping this offense rely on Josh Jacobs and keep the ball running. So shout out to them. Alan, yes, sir. Always great chatting with you as well. I appreciate you, my friend. And coming in at number 5, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. As much trash as I've talked about Jordan Love and the Packers, and I'm sure Carson with the Lombardi Party tomorrow will disagree on some of my Packers takes most of the time. This was another organization that I talked trash about, Pittsburgh. Like, why do we still have Mike Tomlin there? Why are we changing quarterbacks when it's working with Justin Fields? Russell Wilson has revived his career in Pittsburgh. I mean, you look at what they've done the last few weeks. You beat the Raiders, you beat the Jets, you beat the Giants, and those are cupcake games. Let's call it what it is. You're like, okay, we'd expect a good team who's on Michael's top quarter rankings to win those games. But then they went to Washington and won against a very hot Jaden Daniels and Washington Commanders. Sorry, Wayne, I know you'll be on here in a few minutes, but the Steelers beat the Ravens. And then, of course, you had the division, flub against the Browns. But the question surrounding this team was, what can you do? Can you put up 30 every night if your defense doesn't come through? Is that offense electric enough with Russell Wilson and Najee Harris and George Pickens And we saw this past weekend in Cincinnati in a division game on the road, the Bengals fighting for their playoff lives and probably failed. I mean, the Steelers put together a masterclass, won 44-38. If you're telling me that we are in the year 2024 and the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road have Russell Wilson thrown for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns and are scoring 44 points, I'm like, are you kidding me? This is not reality. This can't be happening. Pittsburgh putting up 44 points is so uncharacteristic from this team, but proving that they can win the low-scoring games and proving they can win the shootouts with talent like Joe Burrow, very, very helpful. And coming in at number 4, it pains me to say, but the Philadelphia Eagles are there. They're legit. And when it comes to this NFC East, I'm going to go ahead and spoil it for you. The Washington Commanders do not rank higher than the Philadelphia Eagles because Philadelphia has proven now that they're healthy with A.J. Brown is here, Saquon Barkley's healthy, Jalen Hurts. He may not be fully healthy, but he's still playing, and he's putting his team in position to win. And he didn't even have a huge game against Baltimore. 11 of 19, 118 yards and a touchdown, and 1 rushing touchdown as well. Saquon, 23 carries, 107 yards. But I really want to highlight what this defense did. I've been so high on the Baltimore Ravens. They're 8-5 now. But I'm like, who is going to stop Derrick Henry? Who is going to stop Lamar Jackson? And the Philadelphia Eagles didn't really stop the bleeding. I mean, Lamar stat-wise, Derrick Henry stat-wise, still decent games. But they bended but didn't break. And I think that was the huge factor in what Cooper DeJean has done as a rookie, with Kenyon Mitchell's done as a rookie, with Nolan Smith helping out, Nakobe Dean stepping up this year, Jalen Carter wreaking havoc. I hate that Jalen Carter had some draft issues, off the field, and was drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles because I feel like they got a huge steal. If he can keep his mind right and stay on the football field, I mean, that was a huge steal, and we're seeing it pay dividends right now to the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon Barkley was the right addition for the Philadelphia Eagles to help Jalen Hurts be and succeed the way he is. And come in, number 3 is the only team to beat the Kansas City Chiefs this year. I have the Buffalo Bills, and, of course, I had to talk about the Eagles who beat Wayne's Ravens. I have to talk about the Bills who beat Shannon's 49ers, and I'm sorry I had to put them back to back. I'm sorry. We'll get them in here in a few minutes, and who knows? Shannon might go off on me again. Who knows? But Buffalo, very impressive. Held Brock Purdy in check. Christian McCaffrey obviously got hurt in this game, but I don't even know if Christian McCaffrey is healthy. That makes much of a difference. I mean, at halftime, it was 21-3 Buffalo. In the snow, of course, that obviously favors Buffalo more. But Buffalo, they are putting wins together, and they'll need to put wins together. They need that home field advantage in the playoffs if they meet in a rematch against the Kansas City Chiefs. Josh Allen, his number 1 knock his entire career is turnovers. This game, 13 of 17, 148 yards in the snow, and 2 touchdowns, passing, 1 rushing touchdown, 3 carries for 18 yards. And this entire season, 20 touchdowns, 5 picks. This is probably going to be on pace for his best touchdown to interception ratio. That is saying something. 64, nearly 65% completion percentage. And he has his best passer rating since 2020. His best total QBR again since 2020. So there's obviously been work put in by Josh Allen to get his team in the right position. And if the Bills are going to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, it's got to be on the back of Josh Allen and James Cook, who's helping. 14 carries, 107 yards, a touchdown against the 49ers defense. I mean, what more can you ask for a running back that's taking the pressure off of your quarterback? And come in at number 2, Talk about running backs taking off the pressure from their quarterback. I got the Detroit Lions. Everybody's raving about the Lions. 11-1 is very impressive. This past week, they played on Thanksgiving, and they actually won a Thanksgiving game because this team is good, or it might be because Matt Eberflus was bad. He was bad managing that game. But when you look at what the Lions did to win this game, you can't pin it all on Matt Eberflus. You got to give the Lions credit. Jared Goff, 21 of 34, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns. David Montgomery, 88 yards rushing. Jahmyr Gibbs, 87 yards rushing on half the attempts that David Montgomery had. This team, whether they're relying on Gibbs and Montgomery, whether we're relying on Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta hasn't even had a huge year, but he still had 2 receiving touchdowns on 3 catches earlier in that game. The Detroit Lions, they know they have a red zone threat in Sam Laporta. They know they have somebody who can move the chains with Amon-Ra St. Brown. They know they have 2 running backs who can either explode or run down the clock if they help get a lead. And then you have a veteran Jared Goff who can help lead this team. If this team still had Aiden Hutchinson, that would be dangerous. But, hey, why not? They have Brian Branch. They have DJ Reader. They have Jack Campbell. The Detroit Lions have probably had their best year in quite some time, and obviously it's pretty obvious. Number one, I obviously dropped the Baltimore Ravens out of my top quarter rankings this week, but I wasn't moving the Chiefs down out of number 1. You can tell me they only won by 2 games against the Las Vegas Raiders on Black Friday this past week. You can tell me that Aiden O'Connell outplayed Patrick Mahomes. You can tell me, Sear McCormick for the Las Vegas Raiders outperformed Isaiah Pacheco in his return. Like, you can tell me all this stuff. You can tell me Brock Bowers performed better than, Travis Kelce or DeAndre Hopkins or Noah Gray or Xavier Worthy. Like, you can tell me all this stuff. You can tell me Chiefs aren't blowing people out like Detroit. But at the end of the day, the Kansas City Chiefs have only lost 1 game on the road to Buffalo. If they went out, they're going to get home field advantage. No team would have beaten them at Arrowhead Stadium. They've won back-to-back Super Bowls. And, yeah, they're winning close games. But they were still hungry enough to be, 9-0 to start the year before that Buffalo loss? They've beaten teams who have been good, like the Broncos, like the Buccaneers and the Falcons contending for the NFC South. They've beaten the Baltimore Ravens. They've beaten the Chargers. They've beaten the 49ers on the road. I mean, guys, don't hate on greatness because you aren't great. The Kansas City Chiefs, there is no concern about them winning these close games. What shows is they know how to win those close games. So if you do get them on the ropes in the fourth quarter, guess who's coming back and beating you? Patrick Mahomes. And guess who's going to show up right now on Out of Pocket with Michael Davis? And that's me. It's the guy who dropped his Quick Hits episode earlier this afternoon. We got podcast_Smitty repping the best in the world, CM Punk. I was repping CM Punk last night just to get a little on Mike's nerves, get a little bit under Bully Rye's nerves. If he was watching the nightcap last night, and CM Punk was a huge part of last night's episode. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little later on when we bring back our Top Rope Tuesday segment. And we also have the host of Sideline Savants. He is a fellow Baltimore Ravens fan, a fellow wrestling fan, and he might drop some fantasy knowledge on you this Out of Pocket episode. We got the commish, Wayne Thomas. I appreciate you, my friend. And can you hit us with a, hey, guys?
Hey, guys.
That's perfect. That's perfect. We can go home now. We can wrap up the entire show. Guys, thank you so much. I'm kidding. We got a lot to talk about and not a lot of time. So I mentioned Wayne's the fancy aficionado. Shannon repping his 49ers with the hat right now. And so this news involves all of us. I wanted to bring on 2 different perspectives because Christian McCaffrey is on injured reserve. He is out again. Guys, this is really concerning because we all know when Christian McCaffrey is healthy, he is one of the best running backs, not only in the NFL, but in fantasy football. People use their first overall pick on Christian McCaffrey. They use their first round picks. Christian McCaffrey, he never escapes the first round. So I want to talk about both things right now. Shannon, as a 49ers fan, what is the impact of Christian McCaffrey being injured now?
It's rough because CMC is very important to the squad, and he's very important in the passing game and in the running game. When he's going, he's going. So this is a big blow, and it's shown that through the year, and it's going to be tough. So, yes.
I am sorry, dude. I know both of our teams have been hit with the injury bug. You know, you guys losing Christian McCaffrey, us losing Dak Prescott, among several other people. Y'all have been hurt throughout the year. Brandon Ayuk. It's been tough, but it's also tough for these fantasy football owners, Wayne, who put their stock on Christian McCaffrey, and now he's gone.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what you get for risking a first-round draft pick on Christian McCaffrey. I mean, we know the talent's there, and obviously if he stays healthy, it's going to happen for you, and it's a great, solid pick. But we also know his injury history. So if you drafted Christian McCaffrey, you better had a backup plan, and you better drafted running back heavy the rest of the draft for insurance.
And that's a risk you have to take. I mean, and I looked at it and I was very like, I drafted Christian McCaffrey 1 year and then he was out for the year. And I was like, oh my goodness, it was frustrating. So I haven't done it again. I've used my first overall picks on CD Lamb for the most part, which even that is not as productive as I'd want it to be. But I will say this, while we'll ask about fantasy football replacements here soon. Shannon, you guys have a promising rookie running back. I think Isaac Guerrero could be a great option for you guys and show what the young rookie has.
One thing that's got to be understood about San Francisco is that they've got a very good offensive line. And that is being perpetual in the running backs. Because this has happened before, you know, guys like Raheem Mostert, guys like Matt Breida, guys like Jordan Mason, he was one of them. You know, we've had Frank Gore over the years. There have been some great runners that have came out of San Francisco. You know, we can go back. We can go all the way back. Garrison Hurst was another one. We got Ricky Waters. I mean, Roger Craig, who may get into the Hall of Fame this year. Maybe. Could. So the running back position for San Francisco has paid dividends over the years. There's perpetual guys that have came in there. I think there will be more, but, you know, we're running thin, so we got to be careful.
And if you look at the 49ers, they've lost Christian McCaffrey. Jordan Mason's out. Elijah Mitchell's been on IR. Isaac Guerrero is their fourth-string running back. But I really want Dallas to draft him. And, of course, he went to San Fran where they're running back happy and deep. But now they're in position that they have to use him, Shannon.
Oh, it has to be done because, you know, you've got to have a solid running game. I don't care what anybody says. You know, when they were underpaying running backs a couple years ago and guys like Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey all stood up and said that this shouldn't happen. And now running backs are getting paid a hefty sum. Saquon Barkley is getting paid. King Henry got paid a good sum to go to Baltimore. You know, I know Wayne loves that. So it works out perfectly. You still need a running game. You have to run the football, even though the NFL is pass heavy. We all know that. They love to pass the ball. Big passing touchdowns, big plays down the field, put butts in seats. They're turning into a passing league. But it doesn't matter. It's still the fundamentals of football. Is running the football very effectively. You look at these squads that are actually ahead in their respective divisions. Green Bay's got a good running game. Kansas City has a timely running game as well, too. And look at the Eagles. Oh, man. You know, the Eagles very much have probably the best runner in the NFL right now and should be MVP this year. If everything goes according to plan, Saquon Barkley should be MVP this year. So you got to have a running game. You have to have that.
Well, I mean, and that's a great point because that's how defenses play against you. If you don't have a running game, then guess what? They are going to just, not respect you. They're going to cover your wide receivers. But if you have a good running game, you've got to get more defenders in the box to stop it. And that opens up the passing game. So that's what's helped Jordan Love over in Green Bay with Josh Jacobs right now. That's what's helped Jalen Hurts with Saquon Barkley. That's what's helped Lamar. Like, Lamar's been a better passer this year because people are like, crap, we got to stop Derrick Henry. That is why, Wayne, I am so still upset that you guys got Derrick Henry, because that's changed your offense. Like, you have to have a running game.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with you. But like Shannon was saying, especially with the offensive line that the 49ers have, the running game hasn't been much of a miss for the 49ers. Anybody who's carrying that ball is getting it done. 49ers have a lot more issues, unfortunately, with injuries than just the running game. So I don't see this to be a major impact. And hell, Christian McCaffrey's played 2-3 games for him this year. They've already been impacted by this. So week 14 is not a really big deal for losing Christian McCaffrey as far as their season goes already, because let's face it, the 49ers season's not looking good looking ahead anyway. So it's not because of Christian McCaffrey.
And Jordan Mason did good when he was substituting for Christian McCaffrey, but Jordan Mason out, Christian McCaffrey out. Isaac Guerrero is there. Wayne hosts a fantasy football podcast with NY Jason Colenso on Wednesdays at noon. It'll drop tomorrow. If you guys haven't watched it, it is a treat. They know their stuff. I should listen a lot more, and I'd be doing a lot better. But I did win both of my fantasy football leagues this week, the money leagues at least, barely. Thank you, Jameis Winston and that Denver Broncos defense for that late interception. It was very nice, very nice. The host of Gridiron Address, Aaron Schneider, that is what you get, my friend.
Mike, did you see the clip of Jameis Winston saying he's just praying the Lord delivers him from pick sixes?
Yes, that was the greatest. That was hilarious.
I want a full season of Hard Knocks, Jameis Winston mic'd up. That man is a national treasure. I don't know how anybody could dislike that man. He's fantastic.
I used to dislike him as a Seminole. Very immature, came to Tampa Bay, was terrible, was throwing pick sixes, blamed it on being blind or whatever, like colorblind. His vision was off. He got LASIK eye surgery, and he's like, oh, I could see. And now he's doing better than Deshaun Watson ever was, and he's doing it for a lot cheaper. But it doesn't matter. Deshaun's contract's guaranteed. He's just living the life and probably scheduling his next massage therapy. I digress. This is out of pocket. Shannon's already left. So I'll ask Wayne this question. Fantasy football wise, would you trust Isaac Guerrero, or would you look towards other options?
It's week 14. I mean, the waiver wires are pretty much clear by now. If he's on the waivers, you got to grab him. Right now, we're playing for playoff championship football and fantasy football. So if you had Christian McCaffrey, you should have already had an answer for it. You're not, it's not something that you're figuring out at week 14. So if you haven't already answered for it, trade deadline's over. Shame on you.
And this is a shout out to Mama Davis. She loves when Christian McCaffrey gets called Christian McCafferty. So that was for you, Mom. That was on purpose. So you're welcome. That was a late birthday present. I just didn't want to be the one to say it. So Wayne, thanks for taking the bullet for me on that one. But when it comes to Christian McCaffrey and his future, like, this is one of the better, more talented players in the NFL. Make an impact on the run game, making an impact on the pass game. He could have been MVP last year, 2 years ago. Like, he has such a big impact on this game. But if he keeps getting hurt, I mean, he is 28. He is 28 years old. He'll be 29 next year. And I'll be honest, this might be the end of Christian McCaffrey as we've come to know and love him. Shannon, am I in pocket or out of pocket for that?
It depends, man. Will Christian McCaffrey have the impact that he had Carolina and then into San Francisco when he came halfway through? I don't think so. I think that there is some plays that can be used for Christian McCaffrey, but as far as being as explosive as he was at one point in time, no. But that doesn't mean you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's some things that can be done with him. He may not be a feature back. He may not be your number one. He might be your scat back. There may be packages for Christian McCaffrey that will make him elusive in the passing game. So he's not a player that you can just say he is no use. He's eating money up on cap space. No, but is he feature back money? Is he Saquon Barkley money? I don't think so. And he very much could, Jason. I mean, he very much could, because with the PCL tear and all that, there are injuries that you can recover from, but when you have multiple in one season, you got to put them in the Tua case. Is it something that you can overcome? And I know that Tua's injuries are different because he's got head injuries. But when you're a running back using your legs so much, you're an integral part of the offense, and you're moving constantly, that is a concern about as much as a concussion.
And Jason, the host of, co-host of Sideline Savants, the host from Three from Deep, he's saying Christian McCaffrey will retire next year. Wayne, I'm going to ask you if I'm in pocket or out of pocket of saying this may be the end of Christian McCaffrey. But before I do, I'm going to give you some numbers: 3, 7, 6, 11, 16, and 4. Those are the amount of games Christian McCaffrey has played each season since the 2020 season. Only one, technically full year. He still did miss a game technically, but he wasn't, really hurt just because, we've moved to 17 games. Wayne, is this the end of Christian McCaffrey?
I don't think it's the end of Christian McCaffrey, but I think we got to start making smart decisions about how we go forward with him, because you look at his record and you look at his injury prone, and why are we running this man to the ground still? I mean, come on. I mean, I know he can do it all. I know the talent's there and whatnot, but you get him in a 50-50 timeshare with another running back, you're going to see a different result. So I think they should pay some. And, that's one thing I appreciate about the Ravens with Derrick Henry. And, Coach Harbaugh came out and said, we didn't sign Derrick Henry to run 30 times a game. He does what he needs to do to get him off the field, to let Lamar Jackson do the rest. So, he's effective. You got to keep him fresh. I mean, especially for someone like that injury. So just play smarter with the guy, and I think he can still have a career ahead of him.
And the 49ers have done that with running backs before. There was a time when they were running Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman, Elijah Mitchell at one point. So there are ways that you can do this, and Coach has done that. He's done that. Shannon,
it certainly hasn't been like Carolina Panthers. I mean, they've certainly kept them as safe as they possibly could. But this is football, and people get hurt.
Yes,
it's unfortunate. Hopefully, it stinks to say, but this might be the end of Christian McCaffrey. If it's not, you got to know how to use him. Kind of like the Baltimore Ravens need to figure out how to use their recently acquired wide receiver, Diontae Johnson. Diontae, he got traded from Pittsburgh to Carolina over the offseason. It wasn't working out in Carolina. Baltimore's like, hey, we'll take him off your hands. We played against them twice a year, and now we won him on our roster. But that just doesn't seem to be the case. I don't know why Diontae Johnson isn't being used, especially when there's injuries to the Ravens, receiving core. Rashad Bateman left the game this past week with a knee injury, and they still wouldn't use Diontae Johnson. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on, but I was like, while we have the Ravens fan weighing in, I got to ask, man, what is up with that?
It's got to be something we're not familiar with that we don't know. It's got to be something in the locker room. It's got to be something personal. I don't see any other reason for it. But yeah, you can't have your guy. You can't have your wide receiver 2, Rashad Bateman, go out with an injury and then replace him with Tylan Wallace, who's a special teams guy. And again, Tylan Wallace has shown that he has some skills, but he's not Diontae Johnson. He's not the guy that you signed in the middle of the year to make an impact on your team. So it makes no sense to me, other than it has to be something that the Ravens probably know about that we don't. Something's going on there in the locker room. Even afterwards, John Harbaugh says, I don't have enough information to tell you right now. I mean, it's got to be it wouldn't surprise me if Johnson's frustrated and there's been words exchanged and they sat him and said, "Hey, that who knows." We got to hear answers soon though, because it's the season's coming to an end shortly, and we need a guy catching the ball for us.
You need people catching the ball for us. Wayne's being joined by the advocate. What's the advocate's name? Your cat?
Oh, that's Armand.
Armand.
Nice. Well, and Chris watched him as a Pittsburgh fan. He says still can't believe he was Steelers #1. Fantastic route runner, but just isn't being utilized properly. What is being utilized properly is Chris DeLuca, dugout debrief, noons on Thursday. Nice plug. I tried to work it in. And Jason, Ravens are suspect on how they use a lot of their weapons. They misuse Henry a lot. I don't know. That might be out of pocket, Jason.
Yeah, I disagree. I disagree with misusing Henry. I mean, we see what Henry has done to Lamar's game and how he elevates that team. You don't want a situation where we're running Henry to the ground. I like how they're using Henry just fine.
Yeah. But Diontae Johnson, 1 catch on 5 targets through 4 games for 6 yards. That is what the Baltimore Ravens have gotten out of their receiver after recently acquiring him. Shan, you've had a lot of receiver drama there with Ayuk, Debo. Do you think the Baltimore Ravens are going about the right way of using Diontae, or what's going on?
I don't really know. I mean, it's odd because when our Ravens fan has no idea what's going on, then we definitely don't know what's going on. So I don't know why they're not using him. They could probably use him, especially with them going on the skid, with the loss to Philadelphia. They're going to need, especially when it comes down to the last part of the season, because the AFC North is slipping away from them right now, because when you've got a upstart Pittsburgh Steelers team leading the AFC North, that was not on anybody's bingo card for 2024. I don't care who you say, and I know Chris DeLuca will say that himself. But he's a big Steeler fan. I mean, I know that. But in that case, in that scenario, I don't know why you wouldn't use him in order to try to get yourself back into the AFC North race. And they probably just did it so that Pittsburgh couldn't get him back. Who knows? Maybe.
Who knows? Maybe. By the way, Chris, being responsible, he said the boys are with me on my commute home, and he's not actively driving right now. So I hope your boys are enjoying it. I hope us boys are entertaining you on your ride home. We did go on air earlier today, 5 to 6 for other obligations later this evening. So we wanted to make sure we were a part of your drive home today. Chris, I appreciate you. Be safe on the road. And Jason, the main reason they want Johnson was keep him off other squads. This was a keep away move. I don't know how much damage he would have done to Baltimore being in the Carolina Panthers locker room, but may have prevented a reunion with the Pittsburgh Steelers, or may have prevented Cincinnati going after him with the T. Higgins stuff, or the Cleveland Browns going after him, or another AFC team. Like the Chiefs were down bad with injuries at that point in the year. Buffalo was still trying to find somebody. They ended up getting Amari Cooper. But who knows? We'll hopefully see Diontae make a splash for the Baltimore Ravens.
If I pay attention to betting, which I am a betting man, I'm putting a anytime touchdown pass on Diontae Johnson for Week 15 when he comes back from the bye, because they hear what everybody's saying. So if they actually have plans for the guy, he's gonna make his way on that field, and they're gonna correct this. But there's speculation he might not even be a Raven after the bye week. So we'll see what happens. If he stays on the team, I'm gonna put some money on it for some fun.
You would think they would outright release him.
I mean, if it's that personal, I mean, if what we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, we don't know what's in a man's mind. Hopefully he's all right. But the way they're talking about it after that game is basically, no comment. We're not talking about it type situation. And they should have a better answer if it's not something that's that should be kept within the team. I don't know.
Now we're talking about a splash. Maybe you do want to hit that anytime touchdown bet, but man, I could not have bet that Monday Night Raw was going to be as explosive as it was last night. This is your warning. If you have not watched Raw last night and you want to avoid spoilers, this might be your time to cue off, go watch Raw, and then come back. But if you guys have never watched wrestling, this segment might get you into professional wrestling. And might bring entertainment and enjoyment out of your day. I shared my experience earlier this evening on the Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast from WrestleCade. It was an awesome time with my dad. If you guys haven't had a chance to go to WrestleCade, you'll definitely want to make plans to do it next year. So many great stars, big stars were there. I passed Sting in the lobby. And that was just one of the few stories I've told over the last couple of days. I was like, saw the man without his makeup, and I'm like, Dad's like, you know who that was? I'm like, yeah. I digress. But Monday Night Raw was absolutely banger certified last night with a lot of twists, but a lot more turns. We saw the return of Drew McIntyre, but we opened up the show 30 minutes commercial free. I didn't know how they were going to do it, but they started with a promo that lasted 30 minutes between Sami Zayn, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and it was back and forth. It was one of the better promos of 2024. But it seems like Seth Rollins is about to turn heel, or is in the process of doing that, because CM Punk and Sami Zayn and Jey Uso teamed with Roman Reigns. And how could they ever do that? Guilty by association, if you will. Drew McIntyre was already fed up, and now he's back and wanting some more blood when it comes to Sami Zayn and that situation. And then the New Day. Power positivity is dead. It's over. But it's not because the entire thing imploded. Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston realized that Big E rejected them, turned their back on them, was selfish and going back and recovering from a neck injury, and didn't force his way back into the ring because Kurt Angle did it with a broken freaking neck. This was a wild Raw. I didn't even cover all of the things, but man, I don't know the biggest surprise. I don't know the biggest turn of events. I mean, Wayne, you recently watched it earlier this afternoon. What was your reaction?
I thought it was solid. The promos were great. Sorry, my kid's super excited. She hears me talk about wrestling. She's right across from me going. But yeah, I mean, a great show. I mean, definitely twisty as can be with things that we weren't expecting. The New Day, we were all expecting them to just kind of feud. We did not. I didn't see them turning their back on yeah. But yeah, absolutely. Tons of fun. As far as Seth Rollins goes, I can tell you what, it reminds me of? It reminds me of Hangman, because you see the anger and bitterness taking control. And we all know Hangman's not necessarily wrong. And I don't think Seth Rollins is necessarily wrong. But it's going to be his actions that takes control of him and makes him look like a villain when really he has a reason to be angry. So that's a fun angle to watch.
I think that's the best part. Instead of, turning the Big Show face or heel every week, depending on who needs to be booked in a match. Yeah. Like this is, actual turns and actual justifications. Shan, you comment on the nightcap last night. That's what makes a good heel, is a reason to justify it. But Shan, what part of Raw shocked you last night?
You know what? A lot of it did. But I will say that the very first 30 minutes is what grabbed me. And if it wasn't for those 30 minutes, then I don't think anything else would have mattered because of how captivating that was. You were able to intermingle 4 superstars into one segment, and the segment did not go stale. That is poetry in motion as we speak. Started with CM Punk. Then when Seth Rollins came out, because that was what I was waiting on. Because when everything ended with him and Drew McIntyre, I was like, it's only a matter of time before him and Seth Rollins butt heads, and that is exactly what happened. They butted heads. Then after that, then Sammy comes in there, and then Uso comes in there. They get involved, and I'm just like, this if you haven't watched wrestling in the past couple years, you don't really know the magnitude. It's really good even if you didn't. But if you watched it when it was simmering a few years back, and then all this happened together, you went nuts last night.
You went nuts, just like I went nuts. And you can catch my full reaction on the nightcap. That was a phenomenal time with Mike, and we got to cover a lot yesterday. And Alan's back. He's wanting to shout out us. Appreciate you, Alan. When did you leave? That's what I want to know. Why'd you leave? But it's okay, Alan, because it's all available on demand via Boom Broadcasting's YouTube channel. That if you guys aren't subscribed to yet, you can hit subscribe, catch all the content like Shannon's quick hits, like Wayne's sideline savants, with Chris in the comments, with Dugout Debrief, with Jason's 3 from Deep on Mondays. We got you covered. We dropped quick hits earlier this afternoon. We dropped the mic earlier this afternoon. We're doing Out of Pocket right now. Tomorrow we have Sideline Savants at 12. Dad and the boys flip-flop would drop the mic this week, so Dad and the boys will be tomorrow at 3. And then we'll have Lombardi Party tomorrow at 6, the Green Bay Packers podcast. Shan doing his best Carson impression. And then Thursday, It Stinks at 10 a.m. You got Dugout Debrief at noon. And then Out of Pocket will be back on Thursday at 5:30. But guys, I appreciate y'all so much. Alan, you joined at a perfect time. We'll always welcome you here. We'll always welcome Alan and the rest of you guys. I appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. I appreciate Wayne. I appreciate Shannon. They're doing a lot of stuff that you guys don't realize, and I really appreciate you all. But with that being said, it's been Out of Pocket with Michael Davis, with my guests, Wayne and Shannon. And we'll catch you back here on Thursday on the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel.
Well, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed it. We had a ball making it. Thank you very much.